going to be, I'm going to go over the questions for quiz number 7 that you're going to take on Wednesday. Give me a thumbs up if you know what's happening right now. Okay. So, question number 1. After the Civil War, Harriet Tubman opened her house to former blank. Who did Harriet Tubman help after the Civil War? Zuri.
The slavery for the Underground Railroad.
Well, yeah, she opened her house to former slaves, right? So people who had recently been freed, they didn't have a job, they didn't have a house, right? They had been oppressed. So she opens her house to former slaves. All right, next question. Harriet Tubman escaped slavery through the blank blank. What did Harriet Tubman and many other people use to escape slavery? Caleb, what was it?
Underground Railroad.
The Underground Railroad. Very good. The Underground Railroad. Next question. During the Civil War, the Southern states formed the blank States of America. Malachi?
The Confederate States of America.
The Confederate States of America. Very good. Going on. Abraham Lincoln was given the nickname blank blank. What was Abraham Lincoln's? Emiko? What was his nickname?
Honest Abe.
Very good. Honest Abe. Yeah, you guys are killing it. Next question. Harriet Tubman worked as a spy, a scout, and a nurse during what conflict? Reese, do you know? Reese? Is he glitched out again? Let's see. All right, Malachi?
For the Civil War.
During the Civil War. Excellent. Moving on. The president of the Confederate States was whom? Who was the president of the Confederate States of America? This one's tough. Zuri, do you know? Is your hand up?
I just remember, but then I forgot.
Okay, that's all right. Caleb, do you know?
James.
Yeah, it's a good guess. His name starts with a J, but it's not James. Malachi, do you know?
Jefferson Davis.
Jefferson Davis was his name. Not a cool dude. President Lincoln signed the blank blank, which freed some of the people enslaved in the Confederate States. What document did he sign? Zuri.
The Confirmation Proclamation.
Close. The Emancipation Proclamation. It's kind of a mouthful. Remember, to emancipate means to free a person from slavery. Almost done. Abraham Lincoln was born in a blank in Kentucky. What kind of building was Abraham Lincoln born in? Only Malachi. All right, Malachi, let me know.
He was born in a log cabin.
A log cabin. We got a cutie patootie in the background. He was born in a log cabin. When I was a kid, they used to have Lincoln logs. Have you guys ever heard of this? It was a toy, and they were like little kind of like, they were like Legos made out of wood. You could make log cabins, Lincoln logs. All right, last question. Abraham Lincoln began serving in government in the state of blank. What state did Abraham Lincoln first start serving in? Emiko?
United States.
Yeah, no, that's where he ends up as president of the United States. What state is he first elected to government? Zuri?
Tennessee.
Good guess. Nope. Caleb?
Illinois.
Illinois. Very good. Illinois. Chicago is the biggest town in Illinois. All right. That is your first quiz. We will take that on Wednesday. So turn in your book to page 260 1. We already read this, but we're going to review a little bit before we go on. We talked about Robert E. Lee last week, and we talked a little bit about Ulysses S. Grant. So we are going to start on page 261, where it says, "A Man Who Fights." Please give me a thumbs up if you are ready to read page 261, "A Man Who Fights." Thank you, Malachi, Zuri. Caleb, can Blake, Fire Tablet, Emiko, anybody else want to read? All right, so we will start with Malachi, and then go to Zuri, and then Caleb, and then Blake. A Man Who Fights. Hit it, Malachi.
Oh no.
Although General Grant fought in many battles, he did not always win. Once he and his men were completely surprised by Confederate attack.
Nice work. Zuri, take it from there, please.
During this battle, General Grant was asked, "What plans do you have made for turning back?" He quickly answered, "None. I have only made plans for advancing."
Will you read the next one as well?
General Grant and his army finally won that battle. He won because he was not willing to give up.
Very good. So the North, the Union, had lost most of the battles. In the Civil War starts in 1860, and it lasts till 1865. General Grant doesn't start leading the army until 1864. For over 3 years, the Union Army was losing battle after battle to the South. Even though they had more men, better weapons, they kept on losing. So when Grant takes control, he's ready to take it to him. So he continues to attack. And that's why he got the famous nickname. Does anybody remember what Ulysses S. Grant, his famous nickname was? Malachi?
Unconditional surrender grants.
Nice. Unconditional surrender grant, which means like unconditional surrender means giving up, like just pleading for mercy. I got nothing. Please help me. All right. Page 262. Blake, will you read General Grant becomes commander? Page 262.
Okay. In 1864, President Lincoln made U.S. Grant the commander of all the UN armies. Other men had held this job before General Grant, but each man had failed. It would not be easy, it would not be an easy task.
Very good. Yeah, General Grant was not the first general. I'm sorry. 1 second, guys. Resume. Hit it, Caleb.
General Robert E. Lee bravely led the Confederate troops. They too were men who did not give up.
Keep on going. Sorry.
The many years of war had made the South very poor. General Lee's men had gone for days without enough food. Their clothes were ragged, and many men did not even have shoes. Some had no guns. There were not enough blankets or tents.
Very good. Sorry, 1 sec. So the North were losing the battles. So what they were trying to do was starve out the South. They set up a blockade around the South. A blockade means you don't let anything come in or go out. So today, we get a lot of our food, a lot of our stuff comes from China. My phone was made in China. Your car, Toyota, could be from Japan. Your computer could be from blah, blah, blah. Avocados from Mexico. You get it. We get a lot of stuff from outside. So the Union was trying to starve the South by not letting them get any more food or trade with people. All right, Reese, can you read next? All right, Reese is asleep. We lost Reese. Ben, can you read on too many men have died already on page 262? Do you see that? All right, go ahead, Ben.
Too many men had died already.
thought General Grant. I will write a letter to General Lee and ask him to surrender.
Keep on going.
General Lee sadly read the letter. He knew it was hopeless to fight any longer. His men were too weak from hunger and sickness to fight.
Very good. All right, one sec. Pause. Sorry. So General Lee knows that he cannot win the war. Now, it's third grade. We won't get into that. He has to surrender, which is a good thing, by the way. The book makes it sound like, two guys just tried to do it, but the South was fighting to leave the Union and keep people enslaved, right? So we don't want to forget that. Doesn't matter how brave Lee was, like he was fighting for a cause that was bad. But luckily, the South loses. And when you end a war, you need a peace treaty and people need to surrender. So Lee and Grant meet together. Kasha, do you see where it says on April 9th, 1865 in your book, page 262? All right, we will go back to her. Zuri, do you see where it is? Will you start reading, Zuri?
Yeah. On April 9th, 1865, General Lee met General Grant in
Appomattox?
Appomattox Courthouse, Virginia. General Lee had come to surrender.
Perfect. Kasha, do you see where we are? Caleb, will you begin reading?
What would General Grant's terms of surrender be this time? If he wanted, he could take the horses away from the southern. He could make General Lee and his soldiers prisoners.
Can you keep?
General,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
would General Grant be hard and bitter toward the southern men?
All right. Let's see. Blake, can you read the next paragraph? As General Grant.
General Grant wrote down the terms of surrender. He was glad that the war was over. There would be no Confederate prisoners. Each Southern soldier could return to his home. If the soldier had owned a horse or mule in the army, he could take the animal home with him. General Grant knew that the Southern farmers would need these animals to help plant crops for a starving South.
Very good. Nice work. So the Civil War was Americans fighting Americans. So when the North wins, they want to try to heal the South as quickly as possible because the South is part of America. So when Lee surrenders, Grant is very nice. He doesn't punish them. He basically says, give up your guns and go home. So President Grant, last two paragraphs. Malachi, can you read the last two paragraphs on page 263, please?
Okay. The war was over. Ulysses S. Grant became a hero. A few years later, the people in the United States elected him as their 18th president. Our country still had many problems after the Civil War. President Grant did his best to help his country grow and improve.
Very, very good. That is the end of that chapter. We'll read a little bit on Wednesday before you guys take the quiz. Does anybody remember or does anybody know what bill President Grant is on in our money? President Grant is on our money. What bill is it? Caleb?
Dollar coin.
No, he's on a piece of paper money. Does anybody know which piece of paper it is? Malachi.
He's on the $50 bill.
Boom, he's on the $50 bill, right? So the $1 bill is Abraham Lincoln. It's Washington. 5 is Abraham Lincoln. 10 is Alexander Hamilton. 20 is Andrew Jackson. 50 is General Grant. And the $100 bill is Benjamin Franklin. All right. So please get out your science books